Here is a quick overview of Lady Dar and why she supports Domestic Violence Awareness Month. She started from the bottom and now she's here. Lady Dar grew up in the heart of North Philadelphia. She is going to share with you the area in which she grew up, the area in which it was such a great community where she learned so many valuable lessons. Lady Dar shares her story to inspire and empower women, aiming to help them avoid, escape, and remain free from abusive relationships. Her intention is for you to realize that you can triumph over adversity. In other words, you have the strength to emerge victoriously. You see, look at here, good people. This is the home that I grew up in the North Philadelphia area. She has come into the woman that she is, and she is so proud to say she is from North Philly. Hi, I am Darnice, and I'm just here to share a bit of my story as to why I support Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Why do I use this as an opportunity to give back? Why is it that I am able to pour my heart and soul into helping another woman get out of a domestic violence situation? So, if you're interested in hearing my story, stay tuned. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so glad that you're here and you're tuned in to learn why Leading Lady Dar is so passionate about supporting Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So let's just take it back. I'm just going to share a bit of my story and how I grew up. Grew up in the 70s, 80s era, and I grew up in the North Philadelphia area, primarily raised by my mother and my grandmother. My father was in and out of my life. And I also grew up with a sibling who I'm very close to. My brother, my uncle pretty much had his hand in raising us. So we were kind of a small knit family, but my grandmother's maternal and paternal side, was a little bit aunts and uncles, great aunts and great uncles, was a little large. And, we would always attend family events, birthday parties, repasts, and, things of that nature. But primarily, I grew up in a household and it was a quiet household. I didn't grow up in a household where there was a lot of riffraff. I grew up primarily just with my mother and my grandmother at times. And a lot of times it would just be us three. So it was a peaceful household. I grew up in the North Philadelphia area, which was really busy with a lot of a lot of neighborhood things going on, little mild gangs here and there. But it was also a neighborhood in which families stuck together, neighbors stuck together during those times. You would have your neighbor be able to raise your child, look out for your child, and, just making sure that we stayed as a community. Very much different from the times are today. But saying all that to say that I grew up in a very quiet household. And it wasn't until I became a young adult, and I want to say still teenage, maybe 17 and 18 years old, I began to, I was already dating, but I began to get serious. I got serious about a young fella that was in my life and felt as though that individual was serious about me. So we got engaged. I wound up getting pregnant at such a very young age, which is about 18. I got pregnant when I was 18 years old and had my first daughter, and I felt that I was in love. And with this individual, he grew up in a household where there was chaos, where there was constant bickering, tension, and a lot of different things that I was not used to. But nonetheless, because of the love that I had for the individual, i I accepted it, and I knew it wasn't normal, but I accepted it. And I also felt like, well, this doesn't have to be our situation. So I continued on in a relationship. But lo and behold, the individual that I was with became an abuser. And, he began to, argue. We began to argue, and his words, and when I say his words would cut like a sword, it would cut like a sword. So that began physical and verbal abuse, because after the arguing, there would be the gripping, and then it would be, um, of course, the name calling, the slapping, and the hitting, and the tussling and shoving, and the throwing of things at one another. So it was a very tumultuous relationship. um, so when I look back over my life, I look back and I used to make excuses and say, well, I was very young, so I tolerated it. Or when I was very young, I didn't understand the depths of abuse. But have you know that no matter how young you are, there is something called an instinct. There's something that's called your gut feeling and knowing that this is not right. This is not how it's supposed to be. And I have to admit, I understood that feeling. I knew exactly what that feeling was, but the love that I thought I had for this individual would supersede the animosity that he had going on within himself as well as his family. I thought that the love that I had for the individual, now mind you, I'm 18 years old, 18, almost 19, and I'm thinking that the love that I had would actually heal this individual of all the pain that he was feeling so that he would not inflict that pain on and me and my daughter at that time. And I'm thinking that, okay, I can love him through this. Well, good people, it did not work out that way. But before I realized that it wasn't going to work, I wound up having two more children. Yes, two more children
Having
with
to
this more children with this individual. And keep in mind that there will always be arguing. It was always tussling and fighting, and things were not getting better. Things had got worse. Things were just getting worse. And I knew that it was only but so much that I could take. But as being a young girl, I just was kind of thinking that things would get better. I would leave and then I would come back, and things was just it was just a very, very uncomfortable relationship, a very uncomfortable relationship, because the individual was temperamental. you know Growing up in a household in which he did, where he constantly saw abuse, was pretty much a norm to him. And seeing that and not making excuses for individuals, sometimes people really think that that is just love. That is just how households are supposed to be. That is how people get their point across. So, I kept thinking that the individual would change, but it was one particular incident that woke me up, because I had already had the instinct that this wasn't right. I had already felt this in my gut feeling, that in my gut, that this wasn't right and that it wasn't going to get any better. But because I had three children by the individual, engaged to the individual, I felt like, what, let me just see what can happen. Let me see, and I can't even tell you that I was praying to God and hoping that God would change the individual. I can't even tell you that I had a prayer life at that time. I mean, I knew of God. I felt like I kind of had a relationship with God, but I wasn't really praying for my relationship. I wasn't praying for my well being. I wasn't praying that the individual would. I don't. I won't say that, but I probably was praying that the individual would stop. But because I had been fighting the individual back, I just didn't think that I was being abused. And a lot of times that's what happened with people. They don't think that they're being abused because they're fighting. But you should understand and you should know that fighting in a relationship, in a marriage, is unacceptable. Putting your hands on one another is unacceptable. So there was an incident that took place one particular evening. The individual and I were, going at it. I had already kind of felt the tension in the air, but it started out just by arguing. It started out just screaming matches and slamming things and throwing things. And, the individual just did not seem to want to simmer down. It just kept going and it kept escalating. And one thing led to another. And before I realized, and I keep in mind, I have three children, and I mean three children that seemed like pretty much triplets, because they were, I had my daughter, and then I had a set of twins, and a daughter that's like a year apart. Were like having twins, honestly. And this individual and I began to argue and shove one another, and, cussing and screaming, and you have the kids crying. So it's just chaos. And keep in mind, the household that I came from, this was just completely unnormal to me, but yet to this individual, this is what it was, so this is what he knew, that it was wrong. He knew exactly that putting his hands on a woman was wrong. But again, in an abuser's mind, sometimes they think that this is how they get their point across. This is how they're heard. This is how they're respected. So it just got bad. We fought and fought, and what I felt like I was in a boxing ring for like hours, because we would fight from one room to another room. And keep in mind, I'm beating the kids, trying to simmer the kids down, and then go back to arguing and fussing and fighting. And it got physical, and it got physical with a handgun. And it escalated so bad to the point that it was just like, Lord, if I make it out. It had got to that point in me feeling, if you let me make it out of this, I would never come back. And I'm here today to say that God allowed me to get out of that in my right state of mind. Some bruises, some emotional pain, but yet God allowed me to make it out. And from that point on, good people, I would love to say that um, I never experienced another physical or another verbal or another emotional abusive relationship. I can't say that, but what I can say was not to that extent. Um, but I can say this: throughout the years with my children's father, with much respect to him, and this is no shade, this is just me sharing my story as to some of the things that I went through, what I've endured, and this is why I do what I do in supporting the cause of domestic violence. Because being young doesn't make you dumb, but it make you make dumb decisions, foolish decisions. It make you act off of your emotions, so moving forward, I was able to get out of that relationship, and it took me a while to kind of entertain another serious relationship. But yet, once I did, I was able to seek someone a little bit older and a little bit more mature, and which I did not realize was pretty much taking advantage of me emotionally. And not healing from one abusive relationship can land you into another abusive relationship, but maybe in a different way, because abuse comes in different forms: emotional, physical, sexual, financial, psychological, many different areas in which a person can try to manipulate, if not physically putting your hands on you. So you have to be mindful of that. But what I needed, and what some people do need and not even realizing, is that you need to heal. You need to heal, and not saying that you are the cause of abusive relationship. You are not pretty much the cause of a relationship and someone abusing you. You need to heal because there is some damage that may have taken place. There are some emotional wounds that need to be healed. There's something in you that need to be evaluated, because what would allow you to stick and hang in there in a relationship in which is an abusive relationship, but yet you stay? So clearly, I'm not saying that there is something wrong with a survivor, or with a victim, or with someone who's been abused, but clearly there's something that you need to identify as to why you're staying in a relationship like that. Why are you tolerating this abuse? So moving forward, good people, I found myself in another relationship, and I'm talking about years later, and I'm talking that my kids were probably like adolescence, maybe not quite teen years, but adolescent. I found myself in another relationship in which um, there was almost like a date rape. So, acquaintance rape. That is also abuse. Someone knowing who an individual is, but what yet, someone knowing, someone, I'll put it this way: someone, you're close with someone, and when you say no, they say yes. When you say no, they say yes. and they begin to have their way with you. That is another form of abuse. That is a physical abuse as well. That is a sexual abuse. So again, there's so many different types of abuse. And my goal, I don't think I realized it back then, but I know over the years, once I formed my organization, Walking Them Shoes, I knew that my mission was to help empower women. And the way that I would do that would be to empower them, to strengthen them, to give them the confidence and the courage to look within. And when you're able to look within, identify different areas in your life, to identify certain areas in your life in which you may feel weak, but yet knowing that there's some things that you need to overcome. There's some things that you need to maybe strengthen in certain areas of your life to help you feel empowered, to help you feel courageous enough to walk away from abusive relationships, to not even tolerate when you see it coming, to not even tolerate it, to shut it down before it even gets started. So I formed my organization, Walking Them Shoes, in 2017, and my sole mission was to help empower women, and that's what I've been doing ever since. And we're actually coming up on 7 years, and looking to be able to celebrate that in a way to be able to, just continue to support different causes. So this cause, domestic violence awareness, is really key, and it's near and dear to me, so much to the point that, of course, your girl wrote a book. I wrote this book, War, Women Achieve Remarkably. This book was written, and it's been a couple years. It's actually a journal, and it gives a lot of key information to women to empower them and help them to discover the strength within, and help them look at themselves, and help them identify ways to make a plan. This book help you to really take a good look at yourself. Women Achieve Remarkably is the acronym WAR, but achieving means that you're going to achieve the success needed in getting yourself out of an unhealthy relationship. There's a plan in here that I help women to kind of devise for themselves. It's a 3E plan, which helps them to feel empowered, to escape, to feel empowered, and to also evolve. Maybe not in the same order: escape, empowered, evolve. You may have to um, feel empowered before you can escape, and then maybe evolve. But the message that I'm sending in this book here is to help comfort a woman who is actually dealing with a domestic violent relationship. It is also to help them feel empowered. It is to help them understand that you are not at it alone. You do not have to go at it. You do not have to endure this relationship alone. There's help available. I am a certified Christian life coach. I've coached many women on trying to devise a plan and getting out of relationships, not even just relationships, but I'm talking marriages. Is the goal to just get you out of? The goal is to keep you safe. The goal is to keep you mentally and physically and emotionally safe, and especially if you have children. There's so many women, I mean, there are so many people who are in relationships not alone. They're in a relationship and they have children, So I will be on my Sister Circle social show. I will be discussing um, with other entrepreneurs and with other women who may have dealt with domestic violence, who experience or become a victim or a survivor of domestic violence. So, good people, this is a topic that is worldwide. This is a topic in which a lot of people don't like to talk about. Sometimes it's uncomfortable sharing the story. I don't care if it happened 20 years ago. I don't care if it happened 5 or 2 years ago. Sometimes it can be uncomfortable, but I think it's rewarding. It's rewarding, enriching for you as well as for the viewers, the listeners, because someone could be watching this who is really in dire need of getting out of this relationship. And when they hear someone's story, they can feel encouraged and they feel inspired to want to leave and understand that they're not in it alone and that is nothing to be embarrassed about. Like that's a lot of times people will feel, and you'll hear these words, I'm so embarrassed. you should not be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed. Domestic violence, I will not tell you if it's not possible. Is it possible for you to leave a domestic violence situation? Yes, absolutely. There's some people who make it out and there's some people who don't make it out. But I want to encourage each and every one of you, anyone, I want to encourage you, whether you are the sister that's listening, whether you are the aunt or the mother, or you're someone who know someone else is dealing with a situation like this. It is always good to be a listening ear. You never know what the individual is going through. And for those of you who are, there's so many different resources out here, so many different policies in place, so many different things that can help you plan to exit, can help you plan out your next step in getting away from an abuser. My organization, Walk in Them Shoes, really is to help empower you, because a lot of times when women are abused, they are feeling emotionally, their self-esteem is gone. The abuser, the perpetrator, tend to weigh them down, tend to put them down, um, and make them feel less than, and to make them feel unappreciative, and make them feel that no one's going to want to help them, no one's going to want to be around you, and make them feel that they're the cause of all of this. And a lot of times that builds that diminishes your spirit, that hurts you so bad to the point where you feel that there is no self-esteem, you have no courage, you have no strength. But you have to know, by the grace of God, that God will pull you out of that situation. You just have to be willing. You just have to invite God into the circumstances. If it is your mission to continue in that relationship and seek the help that's needed, for whether it's for yourself, or whether it's for your significant other or your spouse, then do the steps, take the steps that's needed. But if you're in a domestic violence situation, baby, please get out, get yourself some help, seek some help. Make sure that you, whether it's you or you and your children, make sure that y'all are safe. That is the key, and that is the most important thing, most important factor of it all, is being safe. So I'm your girl leading, Lady Dar. I just wanted to share a bit and brief part of my story as to why I support this cause, domestic violence awareness. You've seen some of the statistics, you've heard, some of the stories in which some people don't make it out. Good people, everything that I do, everything in my organization that I do, is to help build a woman up, is to help encourage her on this journey. Whether you are in an abusive relationship or not, my goal is to help empower you, to help you feel so inspired that you're ready and willing to blaze the trail to success. Again, I'm your girl leading, Lady Dar. Thanks for tuning in. If you're interested in reading and supporting the organization, the book War, Women Achieve Remarkably, is available on Amazon. It is also available on my website, walkingthemshoesllc.com. So good people, share the word, support the causes. Come on out with us on Sunday, October 20th at 1:30 p.m. We'll be at Abraham Lincoln High School. We're honoring women who are in domestic violence situations. I mean, I wouldn't say that we're honoring them. We're actually encouraging them and supporting them. We're coming to stand for a cause. We're walking, and some people run around that track, some people skip, hop, roll. I don't care what you do. Just come on out and stand for her. And that her can be me, that her can be you, someone that you know. You never know what's going on behind closed doors, good people. I mean, people come outside and they're smiling and grinning. And not only that, some people are placing pictures and, photos and videos on social media like everything is hunky-dory, everything is cool and cute and good, when behind closed doors, there's total chaos going on. So we never know what people are going through, but we can always be a listening ear. And if we can be of some support, I'm your girl leading, Lady Dar. I'm here for that. Allow me to encourage you, allow me to support you, allow me to help you on this journey. So wherever you are, if you find yourself in a relationship where, there's some verbal abuse going on, baby, most times that verbal abuse tend to extend on to some physical abuse. I would hate for you to have to endure trauma such as that. So get yourself some help if it's needed. Have many resources available. Just reach out to your girl. Again, I'm Lady Dar here. Thank you for tuning in and allowing me to share my story. Have a good one.